Cheating stories. Her fiancé mocked me at their wedding. My daughter's truth stunned all. I stood at my ex-wife's wedding, her new fiancé's laughter cutting me down. I stayed silent until my daughter's voice silenced the room. Her truth wasn't just about Claire's affair. It was darker. I'm Gavin Mercer, and if that stopped you cold, you're about to dive into a story that'll twist your heart and spark a fire. This is my tale of betrayal, redemption, and a truth that changed everything. If it hits you, please like, comment, and subscribe to Viora for more stories that burn deep. 6 years ago, my life was a postcard. Claire Dempsey, my wife, was my world. We lived in a cozy craftsman bungalow in Boise, Idaho. Think cedar beams, a wraparound porch, and a backyard where our daughter Lila chased fireflies. I owned a small wealth management firm, Mercer Financial, advising families on investments and retirement plans. Claire ran a boutique event planning business, crafting weddings and galas with her effortless charm. Our combined income, high six figures, gave us a comfortable life, a college fund for Lila, a cabin by Payette Lake, and plans to expand Claire's business into Seattle. Claire was electric. Her hazel eyes sparkled when she laughed, and her quick wit could disarm anyone. She'd tease me about my number-crunching obsession, while I'd joke that her smile could close any deal. We were a team, raising Lila, then 10, and building a future I thought was unbreakable. But this is a cheating story, and those don't start with happily ever after. It began with a crack in the facade. Claire started working late, her phone buzzing with texts she'd dismiss as client stuff. I trusted her, but the late nights grew frequent and her laughter felt forced. One evening, I found a receipt in her purse, $200 for a dinner at Boise's priciest restaurant, dated a night she'd said she was with a bride. My gut twisted, but I buried the doubt. Love makes you blind, and I was no exception. The first twist came when Lila, now 11, showed me a photo on her tablet. It was Claire at a gala, arm in arm with Keith Randall, a slick venture capitalist who'd bankrolled some of her events. Their smiles were too close. His hand too low on her waist. Mom said he's just a friend. Lila said, her voice small. I nodded, but the photo burned in my mind. I checked our joint account, $5,000 withdrawn, labeled business expenses, around the same time. When I asked Claire, she waved it off. Keith's helping with a big contract, she said, her eyes avoiding mine. Helping, the word felt like a lie. I hired a private investigator, Ethan Cole, a discreet ex-cop with a knack for uncovering secrets. Over coffee at a Boise diner, he laid out his plan. I'll track her for a week. $4,000 up front. I paid my savings stinging, but I needed truth. Ethan's first report came fast. Claire was meeting Keith at a downtown hotel room 308 3 times in 5 days. No business meetings. Just them entering together, leaving hours later. My chest tightened. I drove to the hotel, my hands shaking, and swiped a key card from a distracted maid. Inside 308. I found Claire's scarf, her perfume lingering, and a note in Keith's handwriting. See midnight, usual spot, midnight. My marriage was unraveling, and I was the last to know. The second twist hit at Lila's 12th birthday. Claire promised to be home for the party, but she texted at 6 p.m., stuck with a client. So sorry. Lila's face fell as she cut her cake, her friend's chatter filling the silence. I checked Claire's location. She'd shared it for safety months ago. Her phone pinged at Keith's penthouse, not a venue. I drove there, my heart pounding, and waited in the parking garage. At 10 p.m., Claire emerged, her hair tousled, Keith's arm around her. I gripped the steering wheel, rage and grief colliding. I didn't confront her, not yet. Lila deserved one more night of innocence. I faced Claire the next morning, the kitchen bathed in dawn's light. Who's Keith to you? I asked, voice steady but sharp. She froze, coffee mug trembling. Just a partner, Gavin. You're paranoid. Paranoid. The scarf. The note, her location. They weren't delusions. I saw you. I said, my words ablade. She crumpled, tears falling. It was a mistake. I'll end it. A mistake. I wanted to believe her, but her eyes held secrets she wouldn't share. That night, I found an email on her laptop sent to Keith. I can't leave Gavin yet. Give me time yet. The word was a death knell. The third twist came when Claire filed for divorce a month later. She claimed irreconcilable differences, but I knew the truth. Keith's money, his charm, had won. The courtroom was clinical, her lawyer painting me as distant. I got custody of Lila. Claire didn't fight for her, citing her demanding career. Lila clung to me, her tears soaking my shirt. We moved to a smaller house. My firm struggling as clients sensed my distraction. Claire moved in with Keith, their engagement announced 6 months later. When the wedding invite arrived, gold embossed and cruel, I almost tore it up. But Lila, now 16, said, "Go, Dad. Show them you're stronger." Her faith in me was a lifeline. I stood at their wedding, Claire radiant in white, Keith smirking from the altar. His speech was a knife. Gavin couldn't keep her, but I will. The crowd laughed their eyes on me. I clenched my fists, silent, until Lila, working as a waitress, stepped forward. Her voice, clear and fierce, cut through the room. "My dad's the real man here." My heart stopped. What truth was she about to unleash? Lila's voice echoed in the stunned silence of the wedding hall, her words, "My dad's the real man here." Like a thunderclap over the glittering chandeliers, I stood frozen. My fists still clenched from Keith's mocking speech as every eye turned to my 16-year-old daughter, her waitress apron stark against the opulence. Claire's face drained of color, her white gown suddenly a shroud, while Keith's smirk faltered. I wanted to pull Lila back, shield her from the fallout, but her eyes burned with a fire I'd never seen. This cheating story, my story, was about to unravel in ways I hadn't dared imagine, and I was caught between pride and dread. Lila stepped forward, her voice steady. "You laughed at my dad, but you don't know him. He raised me alone when Mom left us for you." The crowd gasped, murmurs rippling through the room. Claire's hands gripped her bouquet, knuckles white, as Lila continued. "Dad worked nights, paid for my braces, my art classes, while Mom sent birthday cards a week late, if at all." I swallowed hard, memories flashing Lila's tearful nights, my overtime shifts at Mercer Financial to keep us afloat, the empty chair at her school plays. Keith tried to interrupt, but Lila's glare silenced him. "You call him a failure. He's my hero." The room was a tomb, Claire's eyes darting to the floor. I grabbed Lila's arm, whispering, "Enough," but she shook her head, pulling out her phone. "There's more," she said loud enough for all to hear. She played a voicemail. Claire's voice crackling through the speakers. "Keith, we need to move the money before Gavin notices. He's too busy with Lila to check." My blood ran cold. "Money." The crowd shifted, whispers growing. Lila's voice cut through. "Mom's been hiding cash. $30,000 from Dad's firm." My mind reeled. Claire stealing from me. This wasn't just a cheating wife story, it was a heist. The fourth twist came as the room erupted in chaos. Guests muttered, some glaring at Claire, others at Keith, who shouted, "She's lying!" But Lila held up a bank statement projected on the venue's screen. $30,000 transferred from Mercer Financial to an account in Keith's name authorized by Claire. I stared, my chest tight. I'd trusted her access to my firm's accounts during our marriage, never suspecting she'd exploit it. Post-divorce. Claire stammered. "It's a misunderstanding." But her voice was drowned by the crowd's murmurs. Lila's eyes met mine, fierce but trembling. "I found it in her office, Dad. I'm sorry. Sorry, she'd just exposed her mother's betrayal and I was the one breaking." I pulled Lila outside, the Boise night crisp, the stars sharp above the venue's glow. "How long have you known?" I asked, voice hoarse. She hugged herself, shivering. "A year. I overheard Mom and Keith planning at a gala. I hacked her email, to be sure, hacked. My daughter, barely 16, had carried this alone." I hugged her, her tears soaking my jacket. "You didn't have to do this," I said. She pulled back, fierce. "Yes, I did, for you." My heart swelled. But the $30,000, Claire's voicemail, Keith's role, they were a puzzle I needed to solve. I called Ethan Cole, my PI, from the parking lot. "Dig into Keith Randall's finances," I said, my voice low. "And Claire's, I want everything." Ethan's tone was grim. "This sounds bigger than an affair." "Gavin, I'll need $5,000 more." I agreed, my savings nearly gone, but truth was worth it. Ethan's first report came at dawn. Keith was no venture capitalist. He was a front for a shady investment group funneling money through Claire's event business. The $30,000 was just the start. They'd siphoned $100,000 from my firm over 2 years using Claire's old access codes. My knees buckled. Claire hadn't just cheated, she'd robbed me blind. The fifth twist hit when I confronted Claire at her new condo. Lila at my side. Keith was there, his smug grin gone. "Explain the money," I demanded, holding up the bank statement. Claire's eyes widened, but Keith stepped in. "You're out of your depth, Mercer. Drop it, or Lila pays Lila." My blood boiled. I shoved him against the wall, my voice a growl. "Threaten my daughter again and you're done," Claire screamed. "Stop! It wasn't supposed to go this far." She collapsed, sobbing. "Keith promised we'd pay it back. It was for the business, or their new life." I let Keith go, but his threat lingered like smoke. I dug deeper, meeting Ethan at a Boise diner. He slid a folder across Keith's group as tied to a Ponzi scheme using Claire's events as a front. They've been laundering through your firm, laundering my firm. My reputation was a pawn in their game. Ethan's eyes narrowed. There's more. Claire's been meeting a lawyer, whistleblower protections. She might be turning on Keith whistleblower. My head spun. Was Claire betraying me or trying to save herself? I checked her emails hacked by Lila's skills. One to her lawyer read Keith's threatening Gavin, I need out. The word was a flicker of hope, but her lies were a mountain. The sixth twist came when Lila found a hidden file on Claire's laptop left open during a visit. It was a contract signed by Claire and Keith selling her event business to a shell company for $500, 000 money traced to my firm's accounts. My stomach churned. They'd planned to flee, leaving me to face the fallout. But a second file, a draft email from Claire to a federal agent read, I have proof on Keith's scheme. Protect my daughter. Protect Lila. My heart raced. Was Claire playing Keith or playing me? I copied the files, the laptops hum loud in the quiet house. That night I sat with Lila, the Boise skyline twinkling through our window. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I asked, voice soft. She hugged her knees, eyes wet. I wanted to fix it, Dad. Like you always do. Fix it. Her courage shamed me. I'd been silent too long. I called Ethan, my resolve hardening. Find the feds Claire's contacting. We're ending this. As I hung up, a text buzzed from an unknown number. Back off, Mercer or Lila's next. My blood froze. Keith's group wasn't just stealing, they were dangerous. I pulled Lila close to the stars outside, cold and unyielding. Claire's truth was out there, but at what cost? The anonymous text, back off Mercer or Lila's next, burned in my hand as I held Lila close to the Boise skyline. A cold constellation beyond our window. Claire's betrayal had morphed from a personal wound into a sprawling conspiracy. $100 000 siphoned from my firm, a Ponzi scheme fronted by Keith Randall. And now threats against my daughter Lila's courage at the wedding exposing Claire's theft had lit a fuse, but the explosion was coming. Claire's draft email to a federal agent hinted she might be turning on Keith, but her lies her affair, her silence made trust a ghost. I locked the doors, my heart pounding, and vowed to end this. This cheating story wasn't just about a broken marriage. It was a fight for our lives. I called Ethan Cole, my PI, from the kitchen, keeping my voice low. Trace that text, I said, glancing at Lila, who was sketching to calm her nerves. And find Claire's Fed contact, we're out of time. Ethan's tone was grim. This is bigger than a scam. Gavin Keith's group has Muscle X-Con's dirty money, I'll need 48 hours, I agreed. But the threat against Lila gnawed at me. I checked the files Lila had pulled from Claire's laptop contracts selling her event business for $500 000 wired through my firm's accounts, and that email to an agent Kessler. Protect my daughter, Claire had written. My chest tightened. Was she fighting for Lila or saving herself? The seventh twist came at dawn. Ethan met me at a Boise gas station, his folder thick with intercepts. The text came from a burner linked to a guy named Victor Tate, Keith's enforcer. He said, sliding me a photo of a scarred man in a leather jacket. But here's the kicker. Claire's been feeding Kessler bank records for months, building a case against Keith's Ponzi scheme. She's a cooperating witness. Witness. I stared at the records transfers shell companies. My firm's name tainted. Claire had betrayed me, but she was risking her life to dismantle Keith's empire. Ethan's eyes narrowed. Tate's watching your house move, Lila. Now. I packed Lila's essentials, her sketchbook clutched tight, and drove to a motel on Boise's outskirts. Why's Mom doing this? Lila asked, her voice small. I gripped the wheel, the motel's neon flickering. I don't know, kid, but we'll figure it out. I left her with my sister Ellen in Nampa, promising to return. Back at the motel, I plugged Claire's flash drive into my laptop. It held audio. Claire's voice tense, arguing with Keith. You said no one would get hurt. Keith's reply was, ice, keep Mercer quiet, or Lila's collateral. My blood boiled. Claire's affair was a footnote. Keith was a predator and she was his pawn. The eighth twist hit when Kessler contacted me, his number unlisted. We met at a diner off I-84, his badge glinting under fluorescent lights. Claire's our asset, he said, sipping coffee. She's been wearing a wire tracking Keith's deals. But Tate's onto her. If you've got evidence, hand it over. Evidence. I gave him the flash drive, my hands shaking. Protect my daughter, I said, echoing Claire's plea. Kessler nodded. We're moving on, Keith, tonight. Stay low. Low. My firm was crumbling. My daughter was a target, and Claire's double life was unraveling. I drove back the highway a blur torn between rage and a flicker of hope that Claire was fighting for us. I checked on Lila safe with Ellen, but a text from Ethan stopped me cold. Tate's tailing Claire. She's at Keith's penthouse. My pulse raced. Was she betraying Kessler or playing her part? I drove to Keith's building, my truck hidden in an alley. Through binoculars, I saw Claire on the balcony. Keith's hand on her arm. His face hard, then a glint. Tate in the shadows holding a gun. My breath caught. I texted Kessler. Tate's here, penthouse now. Minutes later, sirens wailed and feds swarmed the building. I watched heart in my throat as Claire was led out unharmed, Keith in cuffs. Tate slipped away a ghost in the chaos. The ninth twist was a gut punch Kessler called at midnight. Keith's talking, but Claire's in deep. She funneled $100,000 to keep Tate off Lila. My mind reeled Claire's affair. Her theft was a desperate bid to protect our daughter. But Kessler's voice darkened. Tate's still out there, and he wants you silenced. I moved Lila to a safe house, a cabin in McCall. Her sketch is the only color in the bare room. I'm scared, Dad, she whispered. I hugged her, my voice steady. I've got you. But Tate's shadow loomed and Claire's choices haunted me. Had she saved Lila or doomed us all? The 10th twist came when Ethan tracked Tate to a Boise warehouse. He's meeting a buyer for Keith's books, Ethan said, handing me a burner phone. Claire's there. Kessler's orders. Claire. I drove to the warehouse, my hands shaking. Inside, I saw her wired, facing Tate, his gun glinting. Where's the money? Tate growled. Claire's voice was calm. The feds have it. You're done. Tate lunged, but Kessler's team stormed in. Guns drawn. Tate fired, grazing Claire's arm. I ran to her, my shout lost in the chaos. She collapsed, blood seeping through her sleeve, but alive. I'm sorry, Gavin, she whispered, her eyes wet. Sorry. The word was a weight I couldn't carry. The 11th twist was the fallout. Keith's Ponzi scheme collapsed. His investors ruined my firm's name cleared, but battered Claire faced charges for fraud. But her cooperation with Kessler earned probation. Tate was arrested. His network dismantled. Lila and I returned to Boise, our craftsman house, a shell of its former warmth. Claire came by, her arm bandaged, her face gaunt. I did it for Lila, she said, voice breaking. I nodded, but the $100,000, her nights with Keith. Her silence, they were scars no apology could heal. Why didn't you tell me? I asked the question raw. She looked away, the porch creaking under us. I thought I could fix it alone. The 12th twist was Lila's choice. She posted her wedding speech online, a raw video of her defending me, exposing Claire's lies. It went viral. Millions, praising her courage, calling me the dad who stayed. Lila used the attention to start a blog, Hearts Unsilenced, sharing stories of kids like her, abandoned but resilient. I watched her speak at a Boise community center, her voice strong, my chest swelling. Claire faded from our lives, her new marriage crumbling under the scandal. I started writing too, a memoir about loss and love, finding peace in the words. We stood on Payette Lake's shore, Lila sketching the sunset, its pinks bleeding into the water. Did I do enough? I asked, my voice soft. She smiled, her pencil pausing. You were always enough. Dad. Enough. The word settled in me, but Claire's shadow lingered. Had I fought for justice or just survival? The lake rippled, offering no answers, only reflections of a man and his daughter, scarred but standing. Like what you heard, hit that like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to Viora, because the next story might just be your favorite one yet. Would you forgive Claire or let her fade? Tell me below.